Family, what's good? What's good? My name is Rolam, and that is
I'm Kayla Raney, and this is a show for the professionally curious and the creatively minded.
yes. Welcome to episode 6 of the Rainey and Rose Show.
Whew,
Today we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're
yes.
gonna figure it out. We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna
Yes.
be talking about talent. We're gonna be talking about talent and how much value, how much weight should we put on talent? That's what we're going to be talking about today. But before that, the first thing that we want to talk about is we want to ask what is inspiring you from this week. So you can go first,
Yeah.
Kayla. What's inspiring you?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. No, I don't. Look. Look, it's been a week.
You always go first when we do this part.
Okay. So, uh, normally I like to think that I have lots of creatively stimulating things happening at my life. Like I intentionally read for like an hour in the morning just to kind of like center myself and get me into a creative space. I'm constantly like consuming audiobooks and podcasts and things like that. Like this week, I've had so much brain clutter that I'm straight up just listening to some like slutty ass like novels in my Audible and just enjoying the ride and being like, this
Yes.
is fine. This is
Yes.
good. This is
Word.
great. So that's inspiring me.
That's
I'm
great.
feeling the need to like draw some fae creatures or something pretty soon.
Yeah. Hey, that's great. Whatever works. Like there's no wrong answer to this, right?
What
Um,
about you?
So for me, I had this really what I think is a really cool idea for
Okay.
like this action spy type of movie. Well, I don't even know if it's a movie yet,
Ooh.
but it's a story, right? So I had an idea
Yeah,
for it.
yeah.
So I started to watch Mission Impossible. So
Oh.
I saw the trailer for the new Mission Impossible movie.
Okay.
And so then I was like, well, I probably should watch it from the beginning, like the first one.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
binged
Work your way
watched
up that series.
through the whole thing. Yeah. I watched like
Yes.
all the ones that are out. And then I was like, you know what? Since I did that, I should probably watch James Bond. So I watched
Of course.
like Daniel Craig's James Bond.
Yes.
And so I finished that up today. And it was really good. I think the thing
Yeah.
about watching them with so much space in between is that
Yeah.
when it first came out, I'm so much younger. And so
Yeah.
I realized I didn't really understand what I was looking at.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now, that I'm writing more, I'm older, and I watched all 5 of the James Bond movies together. I was like, oh wow, like this is really an
Yeah.
amazing piece of art. And the same goes for Mission Impossible. I mean, I watched the first one and then I watched all the way to the end. I was just like, wow, like this is really amazing. So I actually got the screenplays for a lot of those films. So I'm gonna be reading those over the next couple of
Oh,
weeks.
cool.
Yeah. And
That's
it's
really
really been
cool.
like a study. It's like a study.
Yeah. I like that. I'm going to start saying I'm studying Star Wars.
Where
Yeah.
it is. That is what it is.
Yes.
So that's been great. That's what's been inspiring me.
Cool.
So
Way
with
more pertinent than my slutty romance novels I'm listening to.
I disagree. Wherever you can find inspiration, that's where you find it. I can't judge you for that. I can't judge you. So with that, let's go ahead and jump
Let's
into
do this.
our topic of
Yeah.
talent. So what does it mean to be talented as an artist? Like as an artist, when you see an artist, an actual like either a painter or an illustrator, what is it that you look at and you say, wow, this person is talented?
That's a tough one because look, I come from a background where I've been exposed to a lot of different kinds of art, and I think that I was introduced to the art world in a way that's a little more experimental than most people. So I put like performance art on the same platform as like classical oil painting. Whereas I think people who aren't artists don't really, I don't want to say understand, but don't get the difference between like a Marina Abramovic like performance piece where she's like sitting and staring at people in the Met for 40 hours straight versus like a Michelangelo, you know? I think that talent comes down to evoking personal connection to a piece. That's what it is to me
Wow.
in artwork. Yeah. If I'm looking at something and it stirs something in me where, like, even if it's not technically good, like maybe they don't have a great sense of anatomy or color or something like that, even if it is just somebody's attempt at making art, whatever medium that might be in, as long as it's evoking a deep reaction to me. And that can be, I admire it. That can be, it makes me uncomfortable. That can be like, I have a really visceral reaction to it. That's actually my favorite kind of art, is art that makes me really fucking uncomfortable. What about you?
So when I look at talent for a writer, I think it's actually very similar to what you
Oh,
just said.
okay.
I
Yeah.
think it's the feeling that you get when you're reading. But
Mm,
I do also think that there are technical things, like when I'm
sure.
reading a book or I'm reading a poem, um, the way they use words, the economy of words, um, that to me becomes what I would say, wow, this is a talented writer. The way the
Hmm.
piece is put together, even if I don't feel something. Like I've read things before where I was like, I don't really connect to this, but I
Yeah.
can see, just based on the words that are on the page, this person is a talented writer. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And so I think, well, let me ask you this. Do you think those things that you said can be taught, or do you think that people are born, or artists are born with the ability to evoke that, or pull those emotions up?
Mm, yeah. I think that's an interesting question. It's something that I've thought about a lot as somebody who worked in like curation and used to put together art
Yeah,
shows.
yeah. And we've
I
talked
would
about
get,
this a little bit.
yeah, we've talked about this a little bit. And it's funny, I've thought about it a lot more since then, because
Okay.
you sort of like made me stop and go like, is this really what I still think? And
Right.
I think I do. I still think that that ability is just inherent to some people. Like
Mhm.
I really do believe that the ability to relate to other people through a medium, especially like a visual medium, as a painter, sculptor, whatever, that is something that you are born with
Yeah.
and then can be cultivated into
Mm.
and shaped into something technical.
Yeah.
I think you have to have it to be a good artist.
Oh, wow. Wait, you think you have to have talent?
No, 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 not talent
Okay.
necessarily. I
Okay.
think you have to have that ability to make people connect with your artwork to be a good artist versus just an artist.
But that's talent though, right? No?
I
Because
mean, it depends on your definition of talent.
okay. Well, I'm saying for
Mhm.
you, right? Like if you say, I look at a piece of art and I say,
Yeah.
wow, like it's making me feel something.
Hmm.
There's
Hmm.
talent here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you're saying you have to have that talent in order to
Right,
be,
right.
like, you could be an artist where you're just like, creating, like you're, drawing Superman or you're drawing Batman.
Yeah, yeah,
You're not necessarily a great artist unless you're able to
yeah.
pull that emotion out of people.
And see, I think this is where the discussion of semantics comes in. Like
Yeah,
you and
yeah,
I have talked about so many times,
for sure, for sure.
I think that what I'm talking about is related to talent in some way, but I think most people perceive talent as somebody who is able to draw well or render well or present like a finished product that looks aesthetically pleasing, you know, but I believe that anybody can achieve that.
Okay.
I really don't believe that technical ability, the ability to create something beautiful, is unique. I think that is something that can be taught. I think the uniqueness comes from the ability to make people look at something that may not necessarily be beautiful or aesthetic, and it still evokes that reaction.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that talent is something that you're born with.
Yeah,
I think you're born with it. And so I think about like one of my younger brothers. His name is Zach.
How many
And
do you have?
so
I think I've counted 4 so far.
I have two younger brothers and a sister. Yeah. So my brother Zach, he is or was a phenomenal basketball player. Basketball player. And he was the type of basketball player that, he would take off. Like if I tried to play basketball right now, I would be really rusty because I haven't played in like a year. Right. My brother, he could like not play for months and just step on the court and be just as good as he was last time. Like he was just that good. You know what I'm saying? Like he had that much talent.
Yeah.
But my other brother, Jeremy, he had, I think they had a similar level of talent, but I would say Zach was a little bit more talented than Jeremy. But Jeremy was a lot more consistent and hardworking than Zach. And so Jeremy is now in the NBA. And so what's interesting is, like you're saying, or what I think that you're saying, is you can like teach these things, like some of these things, or you can have this talent, but if you're not able to curate and cultivate, shape it into what you want it to be, you're not going to be able to go to that next level. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
I think that kind of leads us very nicely into one of our sort of topics for the evening.
I think it does, but I don't know if
we'll circle back.
Yeah, we'll circle back. So how did you think about talent when you first started creating art?
I think like a lot of people, I thought of talent as technical skill, the ability to just be able to do something and do it well. You also have to remember, I started doing art very young, and my environment that I was in was with other professional artists. So I looked at them and I saw these people that to me seemed to already have this innate skill to just do these beautiful, technically rendered drawings and paintings. And I mean, I kind of thought, okay, well, that's how it is.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people think that way because there's this sort of tendency to, you say, okay, well, I'm going to try something. And then if you're not immediately good at it, you don't keep going with it. Right. But I just happened to be pretty good at it. So I was like, okay, well, I'll keep doing this.
Yeah. So just a little sidebar. You mentioned, I know you play tennis like all the time. I never told you this story before, but I tried to play tennis one time. My dad took me out on the tennis court. He was like, let's play tennis. And he hit the tennis ball to me and it hit my hand. Dropped the racket, and I've never picked up a tennis racket since.
Are you serious?
I haven't touched a tennis. I just thought about that when you said, like, if you're not good at something and then you never do it again. Like, I have not. I don't even think I've been to a tennis court. And I like tennis. I like watching tennis. I like, I think it's a great sport.
Yeah.
But I've never done it again. I don't want to do it.
I'll tell you a secret.
Okay.
I really liked tennis growing up. My dad played it and my brother played it, and I really wanted to be able to play it. So I tried to go to my like high school tennis team, like with my little racket, and I had only like, puttered around with it a couple times. Yeah. And I went and I basically got laughed off the court.
No.
They didn't even let me like swing a racket. I stepped on the court and they were like, oh, you haven't been training since you were like 3 with, coaches and blah, blah. And they like literally, they were like, you can't even try out. Yeah. And ever since then I was like, nope, done. Like, not my thing. I won't do it. But my husband is a tennis pro. And so when he really started pushing, he was like, no, like do it. You're gonna really like it. You're gonna really enjoy it. And like, now I fucking love it. But it took being pushed to come back around to it.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have anybody pushing me. And but yeah, so Going back to what we were talking about,
Yeah.
I think that the way I thought about talent was when I read a novel or I read a poem or I read whatever I'm reading, I'm like, they did this in one go, right? Like they sat down and it just poured out. And so that to me was talent, right? Like the longer it takes you to get something right, the less talent that you have, right? And so I think now that I'm further along in my writing career,
Right.
Writing.
Don't make that face.
Now that I'm further along and I've had some more experiences and I'm meeting other writers, and I'm like, wow, like talent is not about getting it right on the first try. Right. It's about continuing on. And I've said this before, but my dad, he's, commended me for, working my gift and working on my writing. And I said, well, Dad, I think anybody could do this, And he said, well, Ro, the gift is being able to sit in the chair and do it. That's the talent. That's the gift. And so that's really stuck with me. And so I think now when I look at talent, I look at, and I think this is sort of what I was saying earlier. Like I look at less of like the art side of it when I'm looking at talent. I look more at the consistency and the work that you put in to get, to that finished product. You know what I mean? So do you think that talent is objective or do you think it's subjective?
I mean, I think we've already kind of determined that it's this sort of amorphous concept, right? Like, it's pretty abstract, and I think it changes depending on who you ask. So to me, it is subjective, especially and I don't know about the writing world, but in the art world, there's sort of this tension between like lowbrow art, highbrow art, all of the gray scale in between that. Whereas, and I say this from experience as somebody who was trained classically, like by like old masters schooling methods at like a very elite art school, I thought that like figurative oil painting was the epitome of like right, like that was the pinnacle. And there was this tendency, if you were that person, to kind of look down on like cartooning and illustration and like all the things that I do now. And I've talked about that before. Like, I would never have imagined, not only am I working digitally, which is sort of a like poo-pooed upon medium, at least it was, I'm also doing sort of a lower brow form of art making than I used to. So, but I don't think that I'm any less talented than I was in art school. I don't think that because I don't do classical oil portraits anymore to make a living, that makes what I'm doing any less valuable. You know what I mean?
I feel you. I think sometimes I think it depends on the field that you're in, right? Because I think, like when I look at sports, I feel like it's a lot more objective.
Right.
Talking about talent, right? So, how many points do you average? How many?
It's statistics.
Right. You have stats, ways of quantifying how good you are. And I think we try to do that in art, right? Where we say, well, how many books have they sold? How many, how many movie tickets did they sell? All these different things. But the thing about art, though, is that in art, it's way more subjective because you really can say like one person can like this and the next person cannot like it. And you can have a complete divide. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
I could have 500 people that like me and nobody else like me, but as long as 500 people think I'm talented, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's very, I feel like we want it to be a little more cut and dry than it actually is. Because even in sport, we're going by the stats, but sometimes I can look at a guy play basketball and I can say, wow, he's only averaging 10 points, but he can hoop. Like I can see in his game that he can play the game. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I think it's a little bit of both. And actually, I think there's there can be some objectivity to it.
Yeah.
And there can be some subjectivity depending upon what it is that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay?
See, and I think this is interesting because this might be the first time that we're kind of like, I don't necessarily agree with you.
Oh, let's talk about it.
I don't necessarily agree with you.
Okay.
I think that you're talking about two entirely different things.
Okay.
I think that people want to quantify art. I agree with that. I think people have this tendency to want to put this umbrella of art and creating in these boxes. Right. And that's kind of the most infuriating part of being an artist, right? You almost always have more questions than you have answers when it comes to our process, everything. What people are trying to quantify art by, though, have nothing to do with the art itself. It has to do with, are you a business person? Are you making money? Have you turned this talent and this passion that you have into a viable source of income or validation, or how many followers do you have? Like, are you being constantly validated that, oh, you are good, you are talented? And I think that's separate from art making.
But the tricky thing though is that the language that we use conflates them. So if I agree that they're separated, but a lot of times we will judge how good an artist is based on those things that have nothing to do with that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Then we agree.
So we do kind of agree. I think we're just thinking about it in like different ways.
No, you're trying to fight with me. I don't know if
I'm waiting for the day that we have a real disagreement.
But no, I think that's a great point that you made though, because like you said, right, they're two different things. Like you really can't put this business piece onto the artist.
Right.
But if I'm going in to try to sell a movie, I write a screenplay and I'm trying to sell a movie. I was listening to a podcast and they were saying, if this is your first time trying to do this, they're not going to trust you with millions upon millions of dollars if they don't trust that you can make that money back. Right.
Yeah.
So now, unfortunately, your art gets conflated with how much money can you make for us?
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing in our business, right? Like a publisher doesn't want to touch you unless you've already had a successful series or you've run a successful Kickstarter. That's why, like, when new authors come and they're like, hey, I'm looking for advice on like how to pitch to publishing companies, and my first question is, well, do you have any published work? And they're like, well, no. And I'm like, well, let's get on the self-publishing train, my friend, because that is the first thing that they're going to look at before they write you a check. Like, I mean, most of the time, 90% of the time, right? You hear the like dream scenarios where people just get picked up, but it's so rare that you can't ride on that chance.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing about, so if when I see a new writer, get a deal, oh, they must be super talented. Like they
must be so good.
Right. Like they've written nothing else. To do this. And the first thing that they wrote was just absolutely mind-blowingly amazing. That people are now saying, oh, we just got to get him the money. Give them the money.
I don't believe that. I believe there's some like sneaky shit going on there. Like this person was writing under a pen name somewhere. Like they definitely had work or connections or something to make that happen, because I just don't believe that is like the way that this industry works, because nobody hands over money unless they have a guarantee of you making it back for them. And that's what it comes down to,
Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I feel the same way. Like there has to be some reason or some explanation for how they're doing that. But I do wonder sometimes, can it just be,
I don't know,
that there are people out here who are just that talented? And I believe that there are people who are that talented who can say, I've never done this before, and then they just sit down and they do something. Now, it may need to be shaped and, you know,
Right,
nudged
right.
and
Yeah,
curated and shaped, you know, put together. But
yeah,
I do think that there are people who can do that. And that's why I think there are people who are born with some talent. Go ahead.
right. Oh, so that made me think about a question because I'm thinking specifically of like I'm like going through my mental Rolodex of like authors and artists that I know that like may or may not have just like made it off the street.
Yeah.
Do you think that that is achievable without putting in the work? You know, say this person doesn't have anything published, say, you know, this person hasn't been represented by a gallery or whatever. Do you think that that sort of magical moment, that like dream scenario of being snatched up by a big publishing company or like a Netflix deal or something can happen if you haven't just like killed yourself already over the process of getting to a point that is that good, where even though you haven't done anything else, they want it and they're willing to pay for it?
I think it can. And the
Yeah,
reason why I think that it can is because of what you said in the beginning, evoking
yeah.
emotion. If you can write something or you can do something that evokes emotion, I think that
Mm,
people will overlook some
yeah.
of the technical flaws that you may have
Right, right.
and say, we can take this because the emotion is so potent. I'm getting chills
Yeah.
thinking about this.
I know, I've
And
got goosebumps
the
too.
emotion is so potent. We can do something with this. And so I think it is possible. I don't think that you can, I think you have to do the work on some level at some point.
Yeah,
But I do think that people can recognize that. And I think it's also about the people that you connect with. You know what I'm
right,
saying? Like I think
right.
about you and I,
Yeah,
and I feel like we just connected so easily and so
yeah.
quickly.
Mhm.
And I've also been in situations where I didn't connect and I didn't build with people so
Yeah,
easily. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I think you find the right relationship and you evoke that emotion, like you bring it out of yourself. I think it's absolutely possible to you know break in or you know do something great
yeah.
without putting in that work. You know what I'm saying? Not that it's
Yeah.
perfect, but it's a powerful piece of work. What do you think?
I don't know. I
Okay.
don't know. I don't know if I believe it. To be totally honest, like I don't know. And maybe this makes me like jaded as as somebody who has spent the last 10 years trying to like achieve
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
has put a lot of work into, you know, building myself to a point where I can be like, well, maybe I could like animate a Netflix series or something. Like I believe that I'm capable of it, but how would I get to that point?
Yeah.
And you know, you always, when you hear the backstories of successful authors and
Yeah.
artists and creators, it's almost always to the tune of, well, I like lived off of ramen for 5 years in this shithole apartment and worked 3 day jobs and stayed up all night just like submitting over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just like rejection letter after rejection letter after rejection letter. And it's the same, like, when I was in the gallery world, I very much so went through the same process of like, I submitted anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah.
I spent countless hours trying to just like connect with the right people and do the right thing
Right.
and build my social media the right way and go through like all of the steps, and it's like banging your fucking head against a
Right.
wall.
Right.
Being like, just happen already. And the minute that I stopped doing that, the minute that I was just like, all right, time to just try something totally new,
Yeah.
here I am. This
Yeah.
is the most successful that I've ever been as an
Right.
artist, you
But
know?
see, but I also think like when you hear those you know in the trenches stories from
Yeah.
artists, writers, I think we're living in a different era now
Yeah.
where you know I'm hearing of TV shows that's getting made off of
Mhm.
right.
Yeah.
So you can tweet something out
That's crazy.
and somebody can say, "Hey, we'll pay you for this story."
It's
And
so
boom,
wild.
you know what I'm saying? Now you're doing it, and you
Yeah.
may not even meant to do it. You're doing it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Now again, I don't think that means you can forego the work. I think once like
Yeah.
you can be recognized, then you have to do the work, which
Right.
I think I would not want to be in that position. I would rather be in the position of doing all the work and preparing
Yeah.
So when I'm put in a position, I'm ready to roll. So I
Yeah.
think there is that, but I do think that there can be, but I also think the odds are not great. You know what I'm saying? Like that's a 1 in 1 million opportunity.
Chance
You know
there.
what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
absolutely.
So let me ask you this.
Okay.
And I see we're
Hit me again. Let's do this.
getting to our time.
Oh, we are. We started 5 minutes late. We've got this.
What was the moment? I'm sorry, everyone. I did these questions. I worded this wrong. It's all good. What was the moment when you realized that your talent wasn't enough and you had to, it was going to be more about your hard work or something outside of the talent that you had? What was that moment for you? Do you have that moment?
Like me personally?
Yeah.
Art school.
Mm.
Yeah, I remember and look, this by no means like deterred me from my like young and idealistic idea of what it was to be an artist. But I remember the first seeds being sown of, well, maybe it doesn't really matter that I'm talented. Like, who gives a shit? There's a lot of talented
Yeah.
artists and people out there.
Yeah.
And lots of people could do what I could do, and even more could do what I did better.
Yeah.
I remember it very distinctly. I was in my first figure drawing class, and I was looking around, and it was like the first week we had this really like great male nude model who was just like perfect for drawing. I mean, he had like a superhero body. So it was like illustrators were happy, fine artists were happy, like figure drawing people were happy. I wasn't happy because I'd never drawn a naked dude before. So I was like, what the fuck is this shit? But like, I remember so they would encourage us in the break to like walk around the room and look at everyone's drawings. And it was the first time that I realized, like, I am a small fish in a
Wow.
big pond. Because I came from, like, at my high school, I achieved very highly. I was, like, recognized as one of the top artists in my high school and, like, one of the top artists in the country just through, like, the awards that I was receiving and, like, the competitions that I was winning and the recognition that I was getting. And then I got to a place like Pratt, like art school, and I was like, cool, here's all the other people that were also doing that,
Yeah.
and the people that were achieving even more than that. And I don't remember what his name was. Jason. He was next to me, and he was the most natural, phenomenal illustrator that I had ever seen in my life. I mean, I could never, he's the only person I've ever seen that was able to just like so easily translate like beautiful illustrations to the page every single time.
Yeah.
And that was when I was like, it's not going to be enough.
Mm.
It was I knew it. And like for the next few years, then I started having professors being like, it's not enough if you're talented. Plenty
Wow.
of people are talented.
Wow.
And I lived in New York City at the time. So it was like, they'll chew you up and spit you out, girl, if you don't like figure out something out that sets you apart from that. And when I was, later, like after I left art school and I was starting my career as a gallery artist and as a painter, it again became evident that like if I didn't figure out how to hustle, if I didn't figure out how to monetize my artwork in a sustainable way, if I didn't figure out how to like talk to people, how to have social skills, how to market myself, I was never gonna be able to do anything, because I had that idea that I think a lot of young people do, where I just thought somebody was going to walk in off the street to like my studio and they'd be like, you're amazing, we want to buy all of your work forever and like install you in this gallery and represent you. Like that's what I thought was going to happen, and it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think that I feel like I'm still learning this. I'm still realizing this.
Yeah.
I think the first time I really recognized it was when I first submitted a poem to like a magazine that I wanted to get into.
Yeah.
And they were like, they said some nice things or whatever, but they're like, yeah, it's not for us. And
Right.
a couple other ones that I couldn't get into, and I was just like, wow, Okay.
Yeah, we'll sting there.
Yeah. And for me, like I didn't go to school,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
haven't been around a lot of writers. And
yeah,
so I actually think that I think I'm a naturally gifted writer. Like I do
yeah.
think
I concur.
it comes easy to me. But I
Yeah,
realize like even though it's coming easy to me,
right.
that doesn't mean that there's not work to be done
Yeah,
on my craft. And so
yeah.
when I'm getting these rejections, and that's the thing about talent, I'm getting these
Yeah.
rejections, and it's really not about my talent.
No, it's
They're
not.
not saying, "Oh, you're not talented." They're just
Yeah,
saying this isn't ready.
yeah,
And so that's when the work comes in, right? There's the
yeah,
talent that sort of gets you going, but then the work
yeah.
is, well, now we got to shape it, now we got to sharpen it, and now we got to, you know what I'm saying? And so I
Mhm.
think I'm still in this place of, I think sharpening, and I'm getting to a place where it's like, okay, it's not just enough to do this art. Now you got to get on your business.
Yeah,
Like, you
yeah,
have challenged me, like, bro, do you have this? Do you have
yeah,
that? Are you ready for this? Let's do this. And I'm like,
yeah.
oh, what? You know what I'm saying? Or
Well,
I'm
that's
like,
how we do shit.
right. And I'm like, I have an idea. And I'm like, oh, let's do this. And you're like, well, have you
Yeah.
thought about this? I'm like,
Uh-huh.
oh, we don't
Oh,
just,
yeah.
it's like, no, I really gotta,
No.
there's other things that go into this
Yeah,
than just creating or me just
yeah.
doing the thing that I like to do or that I'm good at or I'm naturally gifted at.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm. I
and
just
so I
want to
think,
pause
yeah,
and acknowledge what Armand was saying because I think
I
it
missed it.
flows really nicely into what we've been talking about. Yeah.
Hey, okay.
Yeah.
No such thing as talent, just execution and persistence.
Yeah.
That's big time. I don't know if I fully agree. I think there is some talent, but I do like the message behind what's being said because at the end of the day, you can have as much talent as you want, but if
Yeah.
you can't like execute and
Yeah.
persist,
Yeah.
then you're right. It really doesn't matter how good you are, how good you think you are, or how good they think you are. If you can't finish things and you can't put it into the world,
Yeah.
you're not gonna make it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying about like, look, no one gives a shit if you have talent, man.
Yeah,
Like you can have how many people do you know are super talented
yeah,
and they never go anywhere with the gift or the talent that they have.
yeah, yeah,
And more often than not, it's either like they don't have the wherewithal to pursue it, they don't have the interest to pursue it. It just happens to be this thing that they're really good at, like, or it's something that they've always wanted to pursue, but they don't know how, and they don't maybe have the willpower to find out how you do it.
or they just don't understand the process, right?
Yeah,
Like the process of for me, the thing that changed my life was when I heard finished is better than perfect. And I heard
yeah,
that, I was
yeah,
like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
okay. So it's really not about me like putting out my best work. It's
Perfect.
about
Yeah,
me doing it,
yeah,
sharing it,
yeah,
and doing it over and over again. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying? Because I could keep going back to the drawing board and trying to fix it and make it
yeah,
perfect and do all these
yeah,
things. But like you said, like it's really about the execution and the persistence, getting it out there.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
And so yeah, I agree. I agree.
And on that note, what you were saying about like putting it out there and no matter like what state it's in, it's really about just like getting eyes on it, getting people to respond to it. For me, it was very difficult for a long time to truly listen to what they were saying because you
Mhm.
have kind of these preconceived ideas, this notion of like, well, I know that I'm good at this. I know that I'm good at this. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really hard to hear somebody say like, well, yes, but
Mm,
you could do this better and this is how you could do it. Or to have them say like, I mean, you're not that good at it. You're not as good at it as you think you are.
right, right,
You know,
right.
come back to me in 2 years when you're better.
Wow. Yeah,
And learning how to like listen to that and absorb it and then turn it into part of your practice. I think that's a really tough thing for creators to learn.
indeed, indeed. Um, yeah, I feel like we could talk for hours on this.
I know we're so far over our time.
Yeah, no, but like you said, we were 5 minutes
We
late.
did. We
I don't know if Armand saw
due
that.
to technical difficulties,
No.
Armand. Technical difficulties. We were late. You were
Right,
late.
right. Yeah, y'all were late. That's right.
Yes.
Yeah. Kayla, do you have anything else that you would like to say on this topic before we do our quote of the day?
Um, just that if you are a new creator, I I don't think that you should be discouraged by this conversation if you're stumbling across it. Look, I'm old and jaded, so you can only take what I say about this topic with a grain of salt. Uh, I believe that talent will get you plenty of places, but I think that it is work ethic that gets you all the way. And that's really what I think people should take away from it and acknowledge, especially if you are a young artist or somebody who's just starting out in your craft. Like, acknowledge that the work is hard and you will literally go through blood, sweat, and tears to experience anything close to what you believe like success is.
Yeah. And I think I would just add on to that. Who cares how good you are, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Again,
go ahead.
Nobody gives a shit. Do what you fucking love. Like, that is what it's about.
Because if you love it, I guarantee you there's a community of people that's going to love it as well. So who cares how good you are? Who cares how good you think you are? Do the thing that you love, execute and persist, like my man Armand said, and let that be that. So with that being said,
to my slutty romance novels.
Yes.
There's lots of weird alien porn novels out there that I don't like, but there's lots of people that do. So you do you.
Ooh, no judgment. No judgment. Yes. All right. So with that being said, let's move to our quote of the day. Quote of the day. Your talent determines what you can do. Your motivation determines how much you are willing to do. Your attitude determines how well you do it. That is Blue Hope.
I like that.
And so with that, that is our show for the day. Thank you all for tuning in, showing up, saying what's up. We are going to go ahead and get out of here. Kayla, do you want to plug anything?
I just want to say that if you have not checked out our Kickstarter pre-launch page for Scarlet Ranger 2,
I should have had the link ready. Oh,
you are doing yourself a disservice. Go to our social medias and to say, to address Mario, we do this every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern time. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Instagram. I'm Rainy Days Art, aka Kayla Raney,
and I am Rolamb, ROLAMB, on Instagram, and you can find me on Twitter and all the places. And so, with that being said, we're going to get out of here. Thank you guys for being here, and we love y'all. Have a great night.
We do.